Good morning, welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Friday, April 11, 2014. According to a report released by the big broker Aon Benfield yesterday, the total volume of capital available to underwrite reinsurance has risen by 7% to a new all-time record of $540 billion. That rise was fueled by strong reinsurer earnings and a sustained flow of investment into the sector via insurance-linked securities. Insurance-linked securities, of course, are cat bonds and sidecars. The total volume of alternative reinsurance capital, i.e. insurance-linked securities, rose to $50 billion last year from $39 billion in 2012. Major institutional investors such as pension funds have been piling into the market because the investments are less correlated to financial market shocks such as equities or bonds. Aon Benfield also highlighted a growing tendency for reinsurers themselves to hand capital back to shareholders through dividends or share buybacks, rather than risk being tempted to deploy it in uncompromising markets. Total capital repatriation last year increased by 15% to just a shade under $20 billion. Aon Benfield also noted that reinsurers themselves have begun to set up their own alternative reinsurance vehicles, such as sidecars, or by setting up partnerships with established ILS fund managers. There was a terrible accident about 100 miles north of Sacramento yesterday afternoon in California, Interstate 5. A Federal Express truck and a charter bus collided on the highway, killing 10 people. Most of them were students who were on the bus. The FedEx truck apparently came across the median and slammed directly head-on into the tour bus. Authorities in Australia are confident now, after 5 weeks, that the signals that are coming from the acoustical pingings they're picking up are in fact coming from Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. The Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott, on a trip to Shanghai, told reporters that he's confident that the signals indicate that they have located the plane. It's down into a very narrow search area, and he says we're very confident that we're going to be able to find it. He did note that the signals are beginning to wane in strength, indicating that the batteries are running out. And of course, skeptics are saying that the water in the area where they're getting the signals is about 15,000 feet deep, which is going to make any recovery difficult. There was a 6.1 magnitude earthquake in western Nicaragua yesterday. Fortunately, nobody was killed. The quake was centered in the town of Nagarote along the coast. There was significant structural damage, about 25 injuries, but as I said, no deaths. In 1972, there was an earthquake in Managua, Nicaragua, a 6.2 as well, that killed at least 5,000 people, so the Nicaraguans are very attentive to earthquakes. Yesterday, in Lloyd's old library up on the 7th floor, the CEO of Aon, Greg Case, gave a talk. He said that a year after the launch of its controversial 7.5% Berkshire Hathaway sidecar, everything is good. He said it's good for clients, it's good for London, and it's good for Lloyd's. He said according to the statistics he released, over 2,500 individual policies from clients in 95 different countries were placed through the facility from its inception in March until the end of last year. He said this represented premium income in excess of $1 billion. Early estimates suggested that $2 billion to $2.5 billion of premium could be expected to flow through the facility in a 12-month period. He said that this represented 70% of the eligible premium, so that means that only 30% of the people are declining to go into the sidecar. Well, the Colorado State University hurricane forecasters have come out with their annual prediction. They're predicting a quiet 2014 Atlantic hurricane seasons. They're saying 9 tropical storms are forecast, of which 3 will become hurricanes. This comes on the heels of 2 consecutive poor forecasts. In 2013, they predicted 9, but only 2 came. In 2012, they predicted twice as many storms formed as in fact did occur. The forecast was released yesterday morning by Philip Klotzbach and William Gray of Colorado State University. The Atlantic hurricane season begins June 1. Queensland, Australia is waiting for Cyclone Ita, I-T-A. It's currently about 350 miles northeast of Cooktown. It's moving toward Queensland's Cape York Peninsula. According to the Australian government, it's classified now as a Category 3 on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. It's expected to make landfall sometime later today as a Category 4. That would be a very unpleasant series of winds that would have gusts about 220 kilometers per hour at its center. Fortunately, the area where it's going to hit is relatively sparsely populated. On Wednesday evening, there was an 8-alarm fire in a residential neighborhood in Boston. The Boston Fire Department responded as they usually do, bravely and quickly. They began to douse the fire with water, but they encountered a BMW coupe parked directly in front of a fire hydrant. Boston firemen then rammed a crowbar through the windows of the coupe and then ran their 4-inch hose directly through the coupe so they could take water from the hydrant. The driver of the car, who apparently moved it after the firemen left the scene, was fined only $100, even though he parked directly in front of a fire hydrant. The firemen said that they rarely see instances where their work is hindered by some idiot who parked in front of a fire hydrant. Calls in Boston now are saying that the penalties for such illegal parking should be dramatically increased. Hopefully, the person lived in one of the homes that was destroyed by the fire. That's the news for today. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you Monday.